What's going on, guys? Marco here with Dynasty Nerds, and I am bringing you my 5 moves to make for Week 5. All right, so before we jump into it, I want to remind you, if you want to get access to the GM tool, join the Nerd Herd, and you want a 15% off discount, head to the description and click the link in there. It's my promo code. You can also just use the promo code 14P or click the link and you will get that 15% off. So make sure to do that today. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel where you're watching this video. We've got tons of content and we're releasing more and more every single week. Starting this week, I think we're going to have something like 4 to 8 videos a week, so you are not going to want to miss out on any of our content we've got coming up for you. I want to also remind you, you can follow me on Twitter at Marco_14P. I am happy to answer any and all questions you've got for redraft, dynasty, everything in between, or you can drop questions below and I'll get to as many of those as I can as well. All right, let's jump into my 5 moves to make for Week 5. The first one, it's kind of an easy one. We won't talk about it for too long, but it's acquire Kyle Pitts. Whether you are in redraft or dynasty, I'm acquiring Kyle Pitts. He has been really inconsistent. He hasn't gotten the target volume. He hasn't even seen the snap volume that we were hoping for, a guy that everyone was saying this was going to be his breakout season. Now, while he might not be a top 2, 3, 4 even tight end right now, he might not even land there at the end of this season. Kyle Pitts is probably the only tight end not named Mark Andrews that I am paying for in dynasty leagues. And an exorbitant amount. You know, he's one of the guys where I'm fine selling a ton of assets for a guy like Kyle Pitts in dynasty leagues. And in redraft leagues, anyone not named Mark Andrews, I'm okay giving up to get a guy like Kyle Pitts. Even Travis Kelce, because the advantage is if you're giving up Travis Kelce in a redraft league, you're getting Kyle Pitts plus, and I'm totally okay with that. Really, when we look at Kyle Pitts' situation, it's something where he hasn't seen the usage, but he's going to get that volume. I know it's kind of like, oh, we've been hoping that, but it's going to happen. Buy Kyle Pitts right now in redraft and in dynasty leagues. You might have one more week because he plays the Tampa Bay Bucks next week, and that should be a little bit of a rougher matchup as well. But if you don't get him in the next 2 weeks, I think you're going to be sad that you miss out on this buy window for an absolute stud at the tight end position. All right, let's go to my second move that I think you should be making, and this is defense specific. Now, not all dynasty leagues start defenses, but some of them do, and I know a lot of redraft leagues start defenses, so this is a move that I think you should be looking at right now. Week 5 is coming up. There are 3 defenses that I think are either available, or one of these defenses especially could get dropped because of the matchup, and I think it's actually a great week to actually start these teams. So the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, they've been solid. They haven't been incredible, but they've been solid. They've got a solid matchup this week, and I think they are a team that is probably just sitting out on your waivers right now. You can add for almost nothing because no one typically thinks of the Jaguars as a defense to add. Pretty sure they're playing the Texans this week, and that is a matchup you want to capitalize on because, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense has been much better than people have given them credit for. The next defense I want to talk about very briefly is the Denver Broncos. They're one of those defenses that are kind of bend, don't break, and even if they haven't been incredible this year, they're a defense who in Week 5 can give you a solid baseline of points, and that's really all you can expect, all you should hope for from a defense. The last defense I want to talk about is a defense that might get dropped. It's the Dallas Cowboys. They're a very good defense, but they're playing the Rams, and a lot of people see that Rams opponent and think, okay, let's just drop them. Let's find someone else. I think even in a lot of projections, they're not projected to score a ton of points, and honestly, I get it, but here's the deal. The Rams have a below-average offensive line, and they have a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who is known to be turnover-prone. What have the Dallas Cowboys done well? How has that defense been scoring points? Sacks and turnovers, and I think it's likely to happen even if they let up, 18, 21, even 25 points. That would suck for the defense, but what they're going to do as a pass with their pass rushing and with the potential turnover opportunity, I think they're going to be a nice base for you with potential to do a lot more. All right, so let's move on here to my third move you need to be making, and it is kick the tires on Javonte Williams. Find out who has him in your leagues, and obviously this is dynasty specific. We don't know what's going to happen with him when the injury news officially comes out this week, but in redraft, you're probably not trading for a guy like Javonte Williams unless you have started off just on an absolute tear. You're looking at 4-0, and you've got a spot on your bench that you can make a move for him. But really, this is dynasty specific. Javonte Williams, if you are a rebuilding team, is a guy I would go out and get right now. Sure, you're not usually supposed to be buying running backs in Dynasty because the reality is they just don't have that long shelf life. Next year, he is going to be 23. He is not 24, 25, even 26, like he is one of those running backs who is incredibly young still. And no matter what is going on with this injury, even if he has to miss the rest of the season in Dynasty, he is a guy I am going and buying, especially if he's on a team that thinks they're a contender or is in the middle of the pack and could use that bump. I'm fine selling a number of different assets. I don't want to get too deep into what I'm trading specifically because it's hyper roster dependent. So drop questions below or hit me up on Twitter at Marco_14P and I will help you navigate these trade questions. But Javonte Williams is a guy I'm kicking the tires on. I'm going to those managers right now and I'm saying, what do you need to give up Javonte Williams? Because it's likely that he is going to miss a significant amount of time. And if he's going to miss the entire season, Dynasty rebuilding teams pounce right now because, again, he's going to be only 23 next year. He's a young running back who has proven that he can win. My fourth move that I think you need to make is if you are a contender in Dynasty, in redraft it might be a little bit more difficult, but in Dynasty specifically, go get Curtis Samuel. He had a little bit of a down week, but the reality is he still led this team in targets. He is Carson Wentz's go-to option in this offense, even with Terry McLaurin, even with Jahan Dotson, who obviously he had an injury, so we don't know what's going to happen with him. But Curtis Samuel is leading this team in targets every single week. He is outpacing every single player in the NFL in opportunities per game. This week might have changed that just a little bit, but right now he was slightly above Cooper Kupp in opportunities per game heading into week 4. Again, Cooper Kupp might have eclipsed him after this week, but the reality is still that Curtis Samuel is one of those guys who is winning you weeks with his opportunities alone, especially in PPR. He didn't have a rushing opportunity for the first time ever in week 4. I don't expect that that's a trend that's going to continue. He is going to be a guy who is probably in that wide receiver 2, very high up wide receiver 3 range, and I think he's going to be someone who, as long as he is healthy, he is contributing to your team and he is helping you win week in and week out. The fifth move, or I should say moves that you need to make is realize that bye weeks are coming up. And here are some names that I think you need to know. They aren't the sexiest names. They aren't the most attractive names, but they're names that are going to be getting you points. And that's all you need when you're looking for a bye week fill-in. Safe points. And these guys have been doing it week in and week out. Their usage has been incredible. Their touchdown opportunity has been nice. And they're guys who will fill that spot and not give you a 0 as these bye weeks come up. Okay, ready? The first one is Noah Brown. Now, Noah Brown had his first week under 10 points. He had 9.1 points last week. But the reality is he's got chemistry with Cooper Rush. And as long as Cooper Rush or even Dak Prescott is there at quarterback, he is going to probably continue to see opportunity. Michael Gallup is back, but even with Michael Gallup on the field, Noah Brown saw 6 targets last week, or in week 4. So he is a guy who I love as a bye week fill-in at the wide receiver position. Another wide receiver that I really like is Olamide Zaccheaus from the Atlanta Falcons. He has scored in the last 3 weeks, and he is one of the guys who is continuing to see target opportunities, seeing 4 or 5 targets a game. And again, that's not incredible, but you're looking for bye week fill-ins, guys who will get you enough points to get you across the finish line, not guys who are going to be putting up zeros. And I think Zaccheaus fills that role really, really well, similar to a Noah Brown. All right, the next guy, and this is kind of dependent on who's healthy, who's not. But so far, even with a couple of healthy weeks from this wide receiver core, Josh Reynolds has actually been good. He's been finding the end zone, and he has been used in those spots where it's high leverage for fantasy production. So I think Josh Reynolds is a fine guy to throw on your bench and have as an option for a bye week fill-in or an injury, of course. All right, the last one, he's not really a bye week fill-in yet, but Jameson Williams is coming. He could return as early as week 6 or week 5, I think, but it's likely week 7 is the first week we see Jameson Williams. And when he gets onto the field, this Detroit Lions team has shown that they are a very good offense. Now, of course, Jared Goff is okay. He's not an elite quarterback, but he's been putting up decent numbers, and he's been supporting a lot of different weapons. And I think Jameson Williams steps onto this field. I think what he's going to be is a perfect complement to what Amon-Ra St. Brown is. And he could be a guy who comes in, week 7, maybe week 8 is when we really see him start to make a difference. But he could not only fill in for bye weeks, but he could be a league winner. He is that talented. And I think the Lions know that. They went up and got this guy. I think it's going to be something that he could have a very Odell Beckham-like emergence in his rookie season, where he finally gets on the field and he is a game changer, not just for the Detroit Lions, but for your fantasy teams. All right, I know this is 5 moves to make, but I've got a bonus one. I don't want to talk about it too much because we've talked about it in the past, and really a lot of people know about him already, but it's Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs played on 70 of the 73 snaps in week 4. He is a guy who is here to stay. He is, at the very worst, the wide receiver 2 for the Green Bay Packers, and I think he's likely the wide receiver 1 for this team. He's a legit talent. If you listen to me in the offseason process, in the pre-draft process, I said he was actually my wide receiver 8 going into of this rookie class, and you might be thinking that's kind of low, but the reality is, with how stacked this wide receiver group was, wide receiver 8 isn't that bad. I had actually Christian Watson as my wide receiver 10 below Romeo Doubs. Sure, we don't know what, the ceilings of these guys are, but Romeo Doubs is on the field now. He's got chemistry with Rodgers. Even though he had that drop in week 4, I'm not overly concerned. Romeo Doubs is going to be a guy who's going to play regularly with Aaron Rodgers with a ton of weapons at wide receiver that haven't proven anything. Romeo Doubs is the Green Bay Packers wide receiver you want. I know it's a bonus one here, but see what you can kick the tires in and throw out there to get a guy like Romeo Doubs. There might be people who are like, maybe let's try to sell him before he ends up busting. And those are the guys that you want to capitalize on. If it's super roster dependent what you're going to sell for these guys. So drop your questions below or hit me up on Twitter at Marco_14P, and I will get to any questions that you have. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, join the Nerd Herd, use the link below or promo code 14P for 15% off. Thanks for hanging out. Don't forget to be kind, do good, and I'll see you later. Peace.